All right, so to get started with this project, I did start with 500 grams, and that's 850 yards of number 4 weight cotton yarn. It called for a 5mm hook, and I went up to a 6.5mm hook for this project. I used a darning needle, some stitch markers, and then obviously scissors, and we moved on. And this is a super quick and easy bag. You can work this up. I will note that the strap, I tell you to do 77 rows on either side of that strap. It is a very long strap. You can subtract 11 rows or 10 rows. You want to make it your length. I am 5 foot tall, so 77 rows on each side for the strap is going to be way too long for me, but it's perfect for somebody that I made it for that's almost 6 feet tall. So the strap is the one thing that you're going to want to personalize on your own for this absolutely gorgeous bag that we're going to be making today. And so I look forward to seeing everybody's renditions. I used cotton organic yarn. Again, it is a weight 4. You do not have to use cotton, and you do not have to use a 6.5. So overall though, this is about 12 by 12 inches, 11 by 11. And then depending on your tension is how big it'll be. And then I have about 7 inches across on my sides. So overall, this is a really quick and easy bag to work up in a week or two for you. And let's get started. All right, so today we are going to be working on the panels for our purse for this Rosetta satchel, and so this is what it's going to look like. So to get started, you're going to chain 42, and so the way I do that is I start with a slip stitch on my hook. I wrap it around 2 fingers and I pull it through. Okay, I'm using the 6.5mm hook. I'm just going to chain 42, okay? All right, switching over to my 6.5mm. This is what we're going to be using for the remainder of this project. We're going to yarn over and go into each chain, starting in the 2nd chain from our hook, and do a half double crochet in each one of those stitches. And so you should have 41 half double crochets at the end of this row. All right, so starting row 1, I am going to switch to my 6.5mm hook, and this is the hook you're going to be using for the remainder of this project. You're going to yarn over and start in the 2nd chain from your hook and place a half double crochet into each one of your chain spaces. At the end of row 1, you're going to have 41 half double crochets. All right, so I have 41 half double crochets for my row 1, and now we're going to move on to row 2. So you're going to chain 1, and you're going to go into the back loop only of each stitch and do a slip stitch. Super simple. At the end of this row 2, you're going to have 41 back loop only slip stitches, okay? All right, moving on to row 3, and you're going to chain 1, and working into the back loop only, we're going to do a half double crochet into each stitch. So back loop only. I'll do a few with you. This is going to be a pretty tight row, only because your back loop is in the slip stitch. It's part of the slip stitch from row 2, and so they are a little bit tight. So I kind of hold my project on this side so that I can get better leverage to get up underneath that loop, okay? But do that and you'll have 41 half double crochets at the end of row 3. All right, moving on to row 4. So this is what it's going to look like for the starters at the end of row 3. Now I'm going to turn my work like always, and you're going to chain 1, do a single crochet into that same space, okay? Then you're going to do 2 more single crochets. 1, 2. Then you're going to do a double crochet. Chain 1. You're going to skip a stitch, do a double crochet. And you're going to repeat that until you have, okay, so I have 18 double crochets, 17 chain spaces, and then I have 6 single crochets. There are 3 on either side for row 4. Moving on to row 5, and row 5 is going to be the exact same row, same stitches as row 4. So we're going to chain 1, do a single crochet into that same space, 1, then do 2 more single crochets, 1, 2. Now for this row, you're going to place a double crochet on top of every double crochet, and you're going to chain 1 again, maybe. So chain 1, and you're going to skip that chain space and go directly into the top of your next double crochet, and repeat that all the way around, and then your last 3 stitches will be 3 single crochets. Moving on to row 6. So I've turned my work. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to do 4 single crochets, starting with a single crochet back into the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and my 4th single crochet is going to go into the top of that first double crochet from my previous round. Now we are going to do what's called a long double crochet between our 2 holes here, and it's going to go around this middle chain space. Okay, so yarn over, I flip my piece forward just a touch. Okay, and what you're going to do is go under that middle chain space and then into both loops of row 4's skip stitch. Okay, all right, complete that double crochet. Then you're going to put a single crochet into the top of row 5's double crochet. Okay, yarn over, you're going to go basically behind your last chain space, flip your piece, pick up your chain space, and then go into both loops of the skip space 2 rows below. Okay, let's do that again together. So we're going to do a single crochet into the top of our double crochet. Then you're going to do a double crochet, okay, by going behind your first chain space, in front of your second chain space, and then picking up both of those loops from the skip stitch 2 rows before. Okay, and we'll complete and put a single crochet into the top. So go ahead and do that all the way down. You're going to have 17 long double crochets. All right, so to close off row 6, you are going to just do 4 single crochets with your first one in the top of that last double crochet, and you will have 17 long double crochets and 24 single crochets. Now you're going to turn your work and go ahead and repeat rows 4, 5, and 6 until you get to row 34, and then I will help you with row 35 or 34, 35, and 36, and then putting a border on your panels. Okay, moving on to row 34. Okay, so we're going to chain 1. We're going to do a half double crochet back into that same space, and go ahead and do half double crochets in each space across. We're going to be using both loops, and you'll have 41 half double crochets at the end of this row. Moving on to row 35. Okay, I have my 41 half double crochets, and now what I'm going to do is chain 1 and do into both loops, same stitch, a slip stitch. And I'm going to do a slip stitch into each stitch all the way down, so you'll have 41 slip stitch at the end of row 35. Moving on to row 36, we are going to turn our work. got my 41 slip stitches, and now we're going to chain 1 and do another row going into that very first same stitch that we chained into. This is going to be a pretty tight row as you go down it, simply because you have those slip stitches for detail, but make sure that at the end of this row, that first stitch is going to be really tight. At the end of this row though, you'll have 41 half double crochets, and this one might take you just a minute because again you're going into both loops of row 34 to make your half double crochet, and so that you'll still have row 35 popping through. You want to make sure that you're getting into the loops from row 34. So go ahead and do that all the way down, and you're going to have 41 half double crochets at the end of row 36. All right, so I've got my 41 half double crochets across the top of row 36 here. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm actually going to put a single crochet into that same space, okay? And we're going to turn our work, and we're going to be working 1 single crochet into each one of these rows. And so at the end of this, you're going to have 37 single crochets. Let me double check just so I know. Yep, 37 single crochets. And the best way to do it is to put your hook at the very end. There's little holes at the end of each of your row, and just put a single crochet in those holes, and you'll get 37 single crochets down this edge, okay? All right, so I've come to my second corner, and I've got 36 single crochets. I'm going to put in the base of my first single crochet of my foundation, I'm going to put my 37th single crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to put a single crochet back into that same space. Okay, now I'm going to turn my work again, and we're going to work down the bottom of this row. And so what we're going to do is, you can already see that there's little holes already forced open for us, and so we're just going to put a single crochet, and you're going to pick up both of the loops from that foundation chain and put a single crochet in the base of each one of your original half double crochets in that first foundation, and you should have 40 single crochets at the end of this. Okay. All right, so I'm at my third corner, and you can already see where my little space is from my original stitch. So that's going to be our corner. I've got 40 single crochets. We're going to put the 41 here. We're going to chain 1, and just like the other corner, we're going to go back into that same stitch and do another single crochet. Now you're going to place another 37 single crochets down this edge the exact same way you did the first one. I do single crochets over my tail. That does make it a lot easier, and that way you will have one less thing to weave in at the end of this project. So go ahead and complete those 37 single crochets all the way down. All right, we're at our final corner, and we're going to put a single crochet into the top of our very last half double crochet. I've got 37 single crochets already. I'm going to chain 1, go back into that same space, and turn my work, and now I'm going to do single crochets all the way down the top of this. All right, so I've come to the end of the top of my panel, and I have my single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and do a 42nd single crochet into that first single crochet. It is going to be super tight for whatever reason. Ooh, okay, we got this. If you're struggling with me, drop a thumbs up down below. Okay, then you're going to slip stitch, skip the chain space, and just slip stitch into the first stitch, and then you can fasten off, and we'll move on to the base and sides. All right, so to get our base started, we're going to put a slip knot on our hook. Okay, still using our 6.5. You can drop down to your 6 if you are a little bit of a loose foundation chain person. I'm going to chain 16. Now, you're going to, into the back bumps of each of these chain spaces, you're going to put a single crochet. So the back bump, not the sides, you're going to put a single crochet. And this is a little bit of a difficult way to start a foundation chain row, but I will show you when we're all done why we're doing it like this. So go ahead and place all 15 of your single crochets in the back bumps. All right, so I've got my 15 single crochets, and when you look at the bottom, now I have actual V-stitches. It looks like this single crochet row is on both sides the top, and that's going to make it a lot easier because this is going to be the center of the base of our bag. We're going to have a center seam in the very base. So go ahead and you're going to do single crochet rows with 15 single crochets 20 more times. So at the end of this, you're going to have 21 rows of single crochets and 15 stitches in each row. All right, so I'm going to fasten off. I've got 21 rows that have 15 single crochets in each one. And now, a little bit more yarn. I am going to take this tail and sew it in just because I need those stitches. And so to be nice and clean, so we're going to go ahead and just weave in this tail. Into the side here, or into the back of these single crochets. And pull the yarn just a touch, make sure it's stretched out. Sorry about my dog hair. And then I'm going to weave it back the opposite direction into the same spaces that I originally put it. Come on. And I'm actually going to leave it. I'm not going to cut it because I'm going to crochet over it just for more security. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to attach my yarn to this tail. Okay, I'm going to take both pieces. I'm just going to form a cute little section here. I'm going to pull on opposite strands, okay? And I'm going to pull this way, and I'm going to pull this way, and this way one more time. And then I'm going to cut pretty close, okay? And now what I can do is go into the top of the very first base of our first foundation row, pull up a loop, okay? Chain one. Go back into that same space, and now you're going to do 15 single crochets down the base of this foundation row, okay? And when you get to this row, you're going to complete 19 more rows of single crochets. So you should have 15 single crochets and 19 more rows going in the opposite direction that we were going in. Alright, so I've come to the end of my row 20. I have 15 single crochets. I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to put a single crochet in that same space. Now, alright, so I've come to my first corner, and I have 40 single crochets down the side. I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to place into that same space, and I'm actually going to leave my tail, so I'm going to crochet around my tail. Into that same space, I'm going to do another single crochet. Okay, and now you're going to do 15 single crochets all the way down the side of our other this other short side for the base of our purse. Okay. All right, and then just like all of our other corners, you're going to chain one and go back into the same space. You'll put another 40 single crochets down this edge. You will create another corner and then do 15 more here, and that will complete your base. All right, so I just completed my 15th single crochet on my 4th edge, and what I'm going to do is skip the chain space, and I'm going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet of that first side that we worked on, and I will fasten off, pull through, and I will weave in my tail. All right, so moving on to row 1 for the side panels. I've already done one of them, okay? So we are gonna do the next one. I started with a chain of 17, and now what I'm gonna do is a half double crochet into the back bump of my 3rd stitch in, and that's going to leave me with 15 half double crochets, okay? So go ahead and put a half double crochet into the back bump of those 14 stitches, and the back bump is going to give us a really nice base to attach our base to, ironically. So moral, keep doing this, put your half double crochets, we're going into that back bump, not the sides, all the way down. All right, moving on to row 2, we are going to chain 1. Oop, sorry about my dog here, guys, gals and theys. Okay, now we're going to do half double crochets in each stitch, starting with a half double crochet into the same stitch that our chain was in, okay? And so you'll have 15 half double crochets at the end of row 2. All right, we're gonna move on to row 3, and we're gonna chain 1, and we're going to do a single crochet into that same space. And this is gonna be the first of our 3 rows that we repeated for the panel. So you're gonna do another single crochet, and now after you have your 2 single crochets is when you're gonna do your double crochet chain, okay? We're gonna skip a stitch, do a double crochet, then chain, skip a stitch, double crochet, chain, skip a stitch, double crochet, chain, skip a stitch, double crochet. Whoop. What in the world did I do? Hold on. So I'm going to skip my stitch, do my double crochet, and then chain 1. And now I'm going to place my skip a stitch, and I'm going to do my last double crochet, and then I'm going to do 2 single crochets. 1, 2. Okay. Moving on to row 4. All right, we're going to chain 1, then we're going to do a single crochet. Ooh, sorry about that. We're going to do a single crochet into the same stitch space. We're going to do 1 more single crochet, and now we're going to do a double crochet into the top of that double crochet. Chain 1, then you're going to do a double crochet into the top of that double crochet. This is the same row, the same stitches and stuff that we had for our first row that we're going to be repeating. So finish up row 4. All right, so I've come to the end and placed my last double crochet. I have 6 double crochets and 2 single crochets. In my last 2 stitches, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. Moving on to row 5. This is going to be the last row of our repeat series. You're going to chain 1, do 3 single crochets, starting with a single crochet into the same space. Your 3rd single crochet will go into the top of your double crochet from the previous round, and now you're going to do your long double crochets. So go behind that first chain, pick up that second chain, and then go into both loops down in row 3, and then complete your double crochet. Okay, and then we're going to place a single crochet into the top of the double crochet. So yarn over, go behind, in front of, into both loops, do a long double crochet, okay? And then a single crochet into your double crochet. I'll just help you with this, okay? It's a pretty quick, easy row. All right, do your long double crochet. All right, y'all, abundance is coming in. It's pouring in. I don't know if you watch my tarot reads, but the rain is coming down. So if you are watching this after it airs, I promise you, you are about to receive a big old fat lump sum of money that you could utilize. So we're gonna finish this row up with 3 single crochets. All right, so now you are going to repeat rows 3, 4, and 5 all the way up to row 35. All right, moving on to row 36. And 36, 37, and 38 are all going to be the same. What you're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to put a half double crochet into that same space, okay? And we're just going to do half double crochets into each space all the way down, and you'll have 15 of them for 3 rows, okay? Now I am going to go ahead and explain how we do the sides and the bottom, because it's just like our larger panels for the front and back. And what you're going to do is repeat what we did after you get to row 38. At the end of it, you're going to chain 1 and put 38 single crochets down the edge, okay? Then when you get to the corner, you'll do a chain 1 and you'll put 15 single crochets into the base of each of these stitches. You'll chain 1, and down the edge over here, your second edge, you'll put 38 single crochets. So then when you come back to your 4th corner, you will chain 1 and put 1 last row of single crochets on the top. That'll make your 39th row for this panel, and then you'll fasten off, and that will complete your 4th panel, because you'll make 2 of these for this. And so just like, again, just like our other panels, our larger panels that are squares, you're gonna want this to match up and have 38 single crochets on both of your sides. So if you want to go over there and watch during the front and back panel section, the timestamps are listed there, and it'll show you how to do these corners again. The only difference is your front, or your top and your bottom rows are going to have 15 single crochets instead of the 41. Okay, so we are about to do the strap and then sew this together. All right, so I have chained 8, and the strap is the last part of our entire bag. And so what you're going to do is, just like we worked the base, this is actually going to be the center of our strap. You're going to go back into the second back bump, and you're going to start to work 7 single crochets into this chain. And so you will work single crochets just back and forth for this strap, so it's nice and tight. And then we will put the other side of this strap into the V stitches that working into these back bumps is going to create. All right. All right, so I've come to the end of my first side of my strap, and I have 76 rows of single crochets, and I'm going to fasten off. Okay, we're going to pull this through, and I will weave this into here back and forth twice. And so now though, what we're going to do is come down here. We're going to put our hook in our very first stitch on the other side where our foundation chain was. Okay, I am going to, and you might not do this, I just like to make my tail be a part of it. One fluid little motion here. So I'm going to pull that tight from all angles. Okay. All right. And so now what you're going to do is go ahead and do 77, okay, 77 rows of single crochets. Oops. I'm going to pull through, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go back into that same stitch, and I'm going to put a single crochet there, okay? We're going to do 6 more. Ooh. Maybe. and then you will complete 76 more rows. So you'll have you'll have 76 this way, okay, that you've already done, and you'll do 77 rows the other way, and then that's where we're going to put single crochets down the edge, put another row of single crochets on this side, and then we'll put single crochets down the second edge, and we will slip stitch to this very first single crochet that we had, okay? So go ahead and do that, 77 rows of single crochet, including this row here that I'm doing with you, okay? It's probably super tight. That's the way that chain row is, but all right, there we are. Now I'm gonna chain one and turn my work. All right, so to finish up our strap, I have put a single crochet at the end of either end of each of my rows, and I had 154 rows. So that's 154 single crochets on either side of this strap with 15 on both ends. And so now I've fastened off, and I'm just gonna do a slip stitch and do one more just for safekeeping. And I'm actually going to pull all the way through. And so that completes all of our pieces for this beautiful Rosetta bag. And I will weave this part in. We have our strap, we have our two sides, okay? We have a base, and we have two panels for our front and back. And our next step is to wet block this. And so we're going to get some Dawn dish soap and the hottest water that you can stand to put your hands in, and something kind of heavy, because this cotton fabric, organic fabric, will naturally float to the top and so in the water. So I don't know why that just got super blue, but it did. Oh, there we go. Oh, it changed again. So some of you are going to be having some conversations soon that are going to be super meaningful to you, and they're going to come from the heart chakra. Your throat chakra is going to be activating. This project has done something super special for your heart and your throat, and so communications is going to be big every time you use this. So meet me on over at the sink with some hot water and some Dawn dish soap. All right, so to get started with this wet block, I am going to use 4 drops of Dawn. One, woo, a little bit more, okay. And then I'm going to have the water get nice and hot, a little bit sudsy, okay. So I'm all full, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and put all my little pieces into this water. We're gonna let them soak for a full 20 minutes, okay? And that is going to make it so that when we stretch these out to their fullest capacity, they will stay. So one thing I do like to do with these items is fill up a big old measuring cup and go ahead and set it on top of those pieces so that they stay, because you see how they're floating. I will probably fold these after I turn off the record button so that they stay under this vase a little bit better, but it is nice if you have something that's really heavy to put on them, like a stone pizzaware or something like that. You can kind of mess with them. Don't strain them or twist or do anything like that. You're going to leave them in this water though for a full 20 minutes, and then we're going to lay them out to dry on our blocking mats with our 1 1/4 inch T-pins, okay? All right, everybody, so I have pulled all my bits and I have wrung them out just very gently, enough that my hands were like this. You don't want to squeeze, twist, or cause too much distortion to your cotton bits. This is going to be my strap, and so what I'm going to do is lay her out. I'm actually going to do it long ways here. I don't mind that she's going to be bent up here at the top because, or you know, that's going to go across somebody's shoulder. And so for me, I'm okay with that. I am going to not actually stretch this cotton. I'm going to let it stay in the position that it's in. And I really want this cotton yarn to look the way that it did as I was crocheting it. And so I'm gonna take my 1 1/4 inch T-pins, okay? Once I get all my bits out here, we've got one here, okay? Let me try to zoom out here for you. All right, see how I'm just stretching it just barely, just to give it a little bit of definition, but ultimately I want mine to stay pretty much the shape that I made them as I was crocheting along. And so I'm gonna stick that in the corner, give that a nice sharp edge. I'm gonna give this one over here, nice sharp corner, okay? And this is how you're gonna kind of do all of your parts. Again, I'm not stretching this cotton out. I really want it to stay the distance that it was and the size that it was. People say, oh, your cotton's gonna stretch, your cotton's gonna stretch. You are more than welcome to stretch it and make it a bigger purse. Some of you may even wind up lining this. That's okay, that's very possible. That's not my bag. I'm making this for a Virgo. I know that she'll like it just the size that I made it for her. So this is gonna be my bottom, and I'm gonna do the same thing with her. I'm gonna start in the center on my bottom, okay? Because all of her rows are exactly the same. Let's go ahead, and this is where you're gonna get that nice consistent stitch, because you're gonna lay all your pieces side by side on this, and that's gonna make it so that you can make sure all your stitches are gonna match up. And that's what's important here. And making sure that you have all these bits nice and straight so that when you go to sew them together, it's going to be a nice even edge for you where the stitches match up real good, and you don't have to fight the pieces. And so I hope that this is making sense. If you have any questions, you can either email me at pickatrix33@gmail.com, or you can drop me some comments down below, and I will get to them for you as soon as I have access to Wi-Fi, so I can reply to you. Let's see here. All right, so see how those are now pretty much lined up. We're gonna go ahead and stretch this just a wee bit more this way. All right, there we go. So now she's looking about the same size. That's good, that's good. That's what we wanna see. I am not going to be very particular about my strap. I think she looks good. I'm not super worried about her. I want her to stay like that for the most part. All right. I might have to move some of these up, but you guys get the general idea. So see, even one of my front or my back panel here that I pulled out, it's about the same size. And so what I'll do is get her all lined up with my T-pins, and I'm gonna move all these panels up after I pause the video, but I will be back with you in a little bit so that we can sew all these bits together. All right, so just to finish up, I've got all my pieces here sitting. They're all pinned so the corners are nice and straight and angular. And I haven't completely pinned down my strap like super strategic, only at the 4 corners because I really want those to be a nice point. Each one of my panels will match up really nicely together. You have 2 ways of letting this sit. You can take just a normal house fan and blow air on this for about a day or 2, and it will naturally set. The Dawn dish soap is going to make it solidify so that your stitches stay exactly where you want them to. Or you can take a blow dryer and speed up the time, and that's actually going to help that cotton stay a lot better. Just think about when you've thrown something in the dryer that's full cotton and it shrinks. It isn't going to shrink up quite as much as if you were to wash and dry it in the washer and dryer. And so I'm going to do the hair dryer mode. That seems to be what works best for me with natural fibers. And so after I get all dried up and you get all dried up, we'll move on to putting all of our beautiful pieces together. All right, we're going to be moving on to seaming our 4 panels together. We're going to do that, and then we will put our bottom on and then our strap. And so I have gotten done wet blocking, and what I have done is attached my larger panels to my smaller panels at the corners. And my smaller panels, I have placed markers at 10 stitches from the corner on all 4 corners. So I've placed my marker, and there's a reason for that. So now, looking at our right side facing out, what we're going to do is turn our work to the right side of this larger panel, okay? And we're going to be attaching, I'm gonna remove my marker. We're gonna be attaching our yarn in our chain space in our corners, okay? So, just like this. All right, so I've placed my hook back in the corner, and I'm gonna pull up a loop. And now I'm gonna go into both loops of the next stitch and the front loop of the smaller panel. So both loops of the larger panels and the front loop of my smaller panel. And I'm gonna do that 10 times, slip stitch. This is a granny square seam, 1 granny square seam, I should say. That tail out of the way. We're going through 3 loops to make a slip stitch. It's both loops on our larger panel and the front loop on our smaller panel. When we get to our place marker, I will show you what we're going to do with that. We got all right, so we've come to our place marker. I am going to place my last, or my 10th slip stitch. And now I'm going to decrease here with 11 and 12. So I'm going to go into my 3 loops, pull up a loop. Now I'm going to go back into 3 more loops into the 12th stitch, pull up a loop, and now pull through all of those, okay? Let's go down to the other one, and I'll help you with that one. All right, so I've slip stitched up to 2 stitches before my place marker, my next place marker. And what I'm going to do is do that same decrease in the 2 stitches before the place marker so that it matches over here. So I'm going to go into all 3 loops of the second to last before the place marker. I'm going to pull through. Then I'm going to go into all 3 loops of the stitch before the place marker. I'm going to pull through all 3 loops as well as my other 2 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to complete this by pulling my marker out and finishing up. Okay? Just like this. We'll get to that corner, and they'll be nice and even. Okay, so I've come to my corner. I've got 2 stitches left, and you're gonna slip stitch just like you've been doing. 1 and 2. All right, and now you will fasten off and weave in both of your tails on both of your corners. All right, so I have flipped over to the other side, and I'm actually going to work in the opposite corner of where I just fastened off, okay? And so I fastened off over here, and we are gonna make that edge a lot smoother, okay? But we're going to attach our yarn in the very opposite corner that we were working in just now, where we finished up. And so now you're going to be looking at the other large panel as you're crocheting this with the right side facing out. And so attach your yarn into your corner like always. Okay, and put my hook back in that place and pull up my yarn. I'm gonna zoom in, Just kidding, that was zoom out, y'all. All right, and now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do both loops of our large panel and the front loop of our smaller panel. We're gonna slip stitch, okay? One, all the way to our place marker. All right, so I'm at my place marker. I'm gonna do my slip stitch in that stitch. I'm gonna remove my place marker, and the next two stitches I'm gonna decrease. So go into all 3 loops, pull up your loop, then go into the next stitch, all 3 of your loops, pull up your loop, pull through, okay? All right, I've come to the 2 stitches before my place marker. I'd already done one of them. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to do our 2 slip stitches together to decrease. So I've gone into the first one, I'm gonna pull up my loop, then I'm gonna go into the second one, all 3 of those loops. I'm gonna pull up my loop and pull through the other 2 on my hook. Remove my marker and complete this row, okay? Until I get to the corner. Now, you're going to repeat these 2 seams together that we just completed for this side. You're going to switch it over. You're gonna put your top back up and you're gonna start in the bottom right corner. When you're looking at your large panel, we've seamed this side together. You're gonna turn and start in your bottom right corner, and then you will attach your yarn when you finish that side to your top left corner of the other panel, just right across the street from it, okay? And you'll do these 2 down, and then we're going to attach our base. All right, I've come to the bottom of my 4th seam, and I'm actually going to place a stitch marker there. And I'm going to not fasten off. What I'm gonna do is actually attach my bottom, okay? Okay, so I've attached my bottom in all 4 corners, and this is gonna be real easy. I'm gonna go into the corner of my bottom, and I have the V of each of my stitches easily accessible. So that might be a bit that you wanna think about as you're attaching this. So what I'm gonna do is pick up my loop from my leftover seaming, okay? And I'm gonna pull through. And so let me do that one more time for you. I went into the corner of my base, I picked up my loop from my seam on the side, and now I'm gonna pull through like a slip stitch, okay? So the base, you're gonna do this all the way around, and what you're gonna do is the same way that we seamed the sides. You're gonna go into both loops of the base, and you're gonna go into the front loop of your panel. Doesn't matter which one of the 4 panels you're working on, okay? And I think I was a little bit off screen for that, so let me redo that for you. You're gonna go into there, you're gonna go into the front loop, and you're gonna slip stitch the same way that we did all 4 sides and attach the base like that. All right, so I've come to my first corner. I've already removed my stitch marker. I have 2 stitches left, so I'm gonna do those with you. Slip stitch into that one, and we're gonna slip stitch into the last one. And now what you're gonna do is turn your work. I typically chain 1, and then I go directly into the next side. So I pick up both loops, then I pick up the front loop of the very first stitch on the next side, okay? And I repeat that all the way down, and you're gonna do that for each corner. Just chain 1 and turn your work, and then slip stitch all the way down, okay? And when you're all done, you'll have all 4 sides completed, and then we'll attach our strap. All right, so I have attached my strap onto both of my smaller panel sides, and I counted in 4 stitches and then attached my strap. You should have 16 stitches overall due to the corners and just your chain spaces at the top. So if you count in 4 from each side, that leaves you with 8 stitches, and you'll be able to attach your strap. So what we're gonna do is go into the corner on the right side of your one of your strap sides, and you're just gonna attach like we have this whole time, okay? Now I'm actually gonna go over to the first stitch in my panel, and I'm gonna pick up both loops. I'm gonna pull my yarn, and then I'm gonna chain one and put a single crochet into the same space. So one, and I'm gonna do 4 single crochets. This is gonna clean up our top, our edge. Now I'm gonna remove my first stitch marker, and just like our seams and our base, I'm gonna go into both loops, or excuse me, this is not anything like our base or our sides. I'm gonna go into the front loop, and I'm gonna go into the front loop of my strap at the same time. So both back loops are gonna be left out, okay? And what you're gonna do is slip stitch through that. Okay, let's do another one together. We're gonna go into the front loop of our side panel, and when you're looking at the strap, it's actually your front loop, okay, of your strap. You're gonna do that 8 times total. I always pick my strap up just a touch. It's a lot easier to grab it and go into that front loop. Okay. I'm going to remove my stitch marker because it's starting to get in the way. I'm going to do number 7. And number 8. Now you're probably going to have this cute little corner from where you chained. What I would recommend is going ahead and going into both loops of the next stitch as well as the corner. And I'm going to pick up both loops of that corner and pull through, and then complete your single crochet. Do 2 more, your next 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now you're going to move in straight over here. You're not going to chain or do anything. You're just going to go into the next stitch and do a single crochet all the way down the side of your larger panel. All right, and you'll have 41 single crochets down this side panel. All right, so I have come to my other corner here, and I'm going to go into, I have 41 single crochets. I am going to go into that corner space of this panel and do a single crochet, and then I'm going to pop over to the corner space of my short panel and do a single crochet, and then we're going to do the next single crochets till we get to our stitch marker, and then we're going to repeat what we did with our other strap. So I'm going to remove this stitch marker, okay, and I'm going to go into that front loop, get control of my freaking piece, guys. Because you know this is an adult channel, so don't take offense to me saying freaking. Now what I would do is go into the front loop of that first stitch of the 8 stitches. You're going to do your slip stitch and then complete all 8. And you're going to do this, and then you'll repeat what we did until you get around to your original strap. And then, all right, so I've come to where we attached our yarn, and on my tail there, you can see that. I'm going to place 1 more single crochet in that corner where we attached it. Then I'm going to place another single crochet, or excuse me, a slip stitch into all of those 4 stitches that we started with, okay? All right, so I've come to the end, and this is where we've attached our yarn. I'm going to go into that space that we attached our yarn at. I'm going to do 1 more single crochet, and then I'm going to pull my hook out. I'm going to go in from behind and pull my yarn through there. Now I'm gonna flip my work, okay? And we're gonna finish this purse by doing slip stitches all the way until we get to our second strap that we've already attached to this, okay? So just do slip stitches into both loops. That tail is not gonna do anything. It's not, you're gonna have to weave that in, okay? But go ahead and do slip stitches all the way down. All right, I have come to my strap. I've done a slip stitch all the way around, down my long panel, and then the 4 stitches that were before my strap. And now what I'm gonna do is pick up the other portion of those loops that we left out when we slip stitched on the front piece, okay? And what we're gonna do is slip stitch in all of those stitches. This first one might be a little tough. Sometimes I take my hook and kind of grab it, okay? So go ahead and slip stitch. Very tight. You want it to be tight though. And you're just gonna slip stitch in both loops from the panel and the strap itself on the inside of the strap all the way down, okay? And you will do this on the other side of the strap when you get over there to complete it, okay? So complete that all the way down. Just like this. Okay. Ooh. And that completes my 8 slip stitches into my strap, okay? You might have more, that's okay. But now I'm gonna go into that first single crochet on the other side and just continue on my way and doing slip stitches until I get to the other strap. And that will secure those straps real nice and hefty so they can have a lot of weight bearing, okay? So go ahead and complete that all the way off, and when you get over to this corner, again, you will fasten off. I usually tie these together, I double knot them, and then you'll weave in your ends, okay? And that is going to complete this beautiful bag that we've made, okay? All right, so we have completed this absolutely beautiful Rosetta bag. I am so excited to gift this to somebody who asked me to make this. Now I will say at the end of this, if your strap is too long, and I feel like I should have said that as I was making it, the person I'm making it for is like a foot taller than me. So to me, this strap would be way too long. You can either shorten it by say 10 or 15 rows. Everybody's gonna be different. Some people are just gonna do the good old-fashioned wrap. But the strap is gonna be the one thing that is gonna be height-based. And so overall though, this bag is completed, and thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to having you tune in next time.